All right. What's going on, YouTubers? This is Zen from Zen World, and I hope you're having a great day. So before I uh, even start, primarily, you guys know what I usually do. I didn't do it last time, but I'm going to check the stream to make sure that everything is good, and also that you guys are doing well, and you can hear me, right? So let me check this out, make sure it's going smooth and good. Ooh, I sound sexy. Yep, that's about right. That's about right, team. All right, so today we on comic book vibes, we're having a real talk about the beast complex. Now, you're probably not too sure about what I mean by the beast complex in itself. So we're looking at a character called Beast from the X-Men, also known as Henry McCoy, right? Now, this character is uh, is a very interesting character for a lot of different reasons, right? Um, and the reason why we're talking about him, because I think in society today, it does relate to a lot of things that we're going through as a society, right? Not just what's happening now, but the process of people trying to change and people trying to do X, Y, and Z when it comes to their own stature, how they look, and what they want to change, right? So when we're looking at the character of Henry McCoy, again, he is an X-Men, but he had a different before he was the blue personnel that we knew him as this, right? So I'm going to put up the picture, right? Now, as you can see, he looks pretty human, right? He looks pretty human. But he wasn't comfortable with who he was, right? Because he didn't look like everyone else. So you're probably wondering, like, okay, he didn't look like everyone else. But right, because if you look at his hands, right, let's look at another picture real quick, right? If we look at his hands, you'll see that his hands are really big, right? And his feet are really big too. And that's to give off the image of something that's reminiscent to an ape-like, right? Now, it then begs the question, so what's wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with that, right? I think that's the main point, that there's nothing actually wrong with it. So, but the thing about it is, for Beast himself, he wanted to fit in. He wanted to be like others, right? He wanted to see how he could be a better version of himself. And while he was already the best version of himself, he still wanted to pursue that even farther, right? So in a little bit, I'm going to have a discussion. We're going to have a little debate with a couple folks, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about you know, what makes this wrong and how is it relevant, or I mean, what makes this right and how is it relevant to um, what we're going through, right? And when I say what we're going through, is what people are going through in order to try to fit in to normal society itself, right? So what I'm doing right now is I'm just sending the link to my bros, and they're gonna jump in a little bit so that we could talk about it. But in the meantime, let's go through the process, and I'm gonna check out the chat. So shout out to Bree Ford. Shout out to Iron Master. V Kerp, what's going on? Hugh's about to jump in. Piranha, what's going on? And I'll probably drop the link so that folks could hop on. But what I will say is you have to be over the age of 18 in order to join in the live stream, right? Not the live stream, but the actual visual output itself, right? So that's the only thing. Um, yeah, and that's about it. So if you're not of age, I apologize for that. It's nothing against you. It's just everything to do with just making sure to respect your age and the compliances that YouTube has, and your parents also have too, right? Not to get too intense with everything, right? So I'm gonna kind of go through while I'm getting this link, sharing it, and making sure that everyone who's about to jump in has the actual link itself. I'm going to talk about Henry McCoy. And he went through the process of he tried to change himself. He tried to change himself so that he could be the quote unquote normal, right? And the question is, what is normal, right? But for him, normal means that he doesn't have big hands, big feet, or anything of that nature, right? Now, and he also was a mutant, right? I think he would have been fine if he had the powers, but he didn't fit into the way that he wanted to, right? So when it comes down to that, he's a brilliant scientist as well. So he tried to make a quote unquote cure for himself. Now, you might say a cure. What would the cure actually do, right? The cure was basically to make him normal as possible, right? Now, when I say as normal as possible, he doesn't have big hands, he doesn't have big feet. That way, when he's in society, he can then be a person who will be a part of the normal status quo, right? In a sense. So we are our first guest that I'm going to bring on, and more are coming in. And this is Golden Ninja. So Golden Ninja is in the chat. What's going on, Golden Ninja?
Hello, hello. Good evening. Good evening, chat. Good evening, Zen.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
So we were just talking about Beast of the X-Men and how his need to try to become normal has actually changed him into something else. But in reality, it's kind of parallel to what we go through in society. Not we in particular, but basically what people go through in society of trying to change themselves in order to fit in. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, when you sent me this earlier, the first thing that popped into my mind was when he was smart and when he, didn't look like a beast, people respected him. But now, since he looks like a beast, but he's still smart,
Right.
people are afraid of him. People don't want to go next to him.
Right.
So it's the disparities that exist today as well.
Right.
Because, when someone's scared of somebody by just looking at them, not knowing them or understanding who they are, they're afraid of them. They fear them, even though they bring things to the table that are, things that should be listened to, things that should be respected. But it just goes to show you how much looks can really define you. It can make you or break you. You know what I mean? It's true that if you're a better looking person, you'll have a better life if you're a better looking person.
Right.
People treat you nicer. People would help you out more if you're a better looking person rather than an ugly person. It's sad to say, but it's something that is true. And I don't know when that's going to change. Yeah, looks mean a lot, and it goes on color, it goes on all this type of different things.
Right.
So it's it's something that a beast has to deal with on a daily basis, because when people see him, they're afraid of him because they think he's gonna roar and scream. But then when he starts, breaking down what's the situation and how they're gonna figure it out, and
Right.
using his brain and his ideas and things like that, then they'll start warming up to him and realizing that, wow, this guy's a pretty good person. And that's something that we all deal with, or people of color deal with today and age.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I think that's especially what we're going on today, there's a parallel on like, uh, people will look at you and judge you for who they think you are, right?
Right.
And that's not the case. I think you brought up like a really great, a great point that people will look at Beast, right, as a quote unquote beast-like character, but in reality, he's a very smart, astute person. Also, at the same time, he has he's kind and gentle, right? Um, and I think he originally wanted to be a person who was perceived as just a regular person, and now because he wanted to change and transform into what is society deems as normal, as something that he's now not normal, right? It kind of goes into people who try to change their appearance in order to be accepted, through means of plastic surgery or things of that nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
um so I'm just gonna look in the chat. Superhero reviews, what's going on? Brief forward, I do see you. You're asking for the link. I'm opening up the link a little bit later, but just for clarification, I will kind of verify your age at that later time, right? We do have another guest. Most of the guests that I have today, they were already predetermined, right? So those are the guests that are going to be on. So we have another guest, the unknown. The unknown, what's going on?
What's going on, guys?
Hey, so we were just talking about Beast, and also, how him wanting to be the quote unquote normal has changed him, right? But also how people try to change themselves, their appearances, their aesthetics in order to fit in. So what's your piece on that? What's your ideals on that?
Um, when it really is the best, this Beast is a very good example of what has been going on throughout the years with women and men trying to, as Beast was doing, trying to quote unquote fit in.
Right.
Plastic surgery, nose job, big butts, big breasts,
Hmm.
synthol in the muscles,
Hmm.
steroids, growth hormone. So um, it kind of makes you think that should I, it's okay to be different.
Right.
In his case, he I'm gonna say he went too far. Although he was smart, he went too far and didn't know that it was gonna be a reaction to whatever he did to make him look like an actual beast.
Right. Right.
Personally, I would have definitely be fine with some big arm, big legs, some big calves, because y'all know me, so I'm fine with that.
Right.
But unfortunately now, and he can't reverse it because he's been trying for so long.
Right.
Um, Now he's set like that, so I know in his head he's like, man, look what I was trying to reach for,
Right. Right.
and unfortunately, it didn't work out in my favor.
Right. And I think, for Beast, it wasn't until like way after where he kind of gained some kind of mental peace about who he was, through that secondary evolution. And I think a lot of people in society, they go through that, right? It's not until they're older that they realize, like, I'm okay with who I am, right? And I don't want to change it, right?
Yeah.
But like you mentioned before, and I'm going to bring up some pictures, there are people who go through the process of trying to change themselves just to fit in, right? Kind of like when we're looking at these bodies, right? Now, all of these bodies are sexy. You know what I mean? In different ways, right? We have thick women, we have slim women, whatever. But the status quo kind of says that you have to be slim, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Society.
with yeah, society says that you have to be slim. Or looking at this other picture right here, that you have to have six-pack abs. Now, I don't have six-pack abs. I'm getting older, and I might have like two packs at max
Mm-hmm.
when I lift up my belly.
I got one. Mm-hmm. I got
But
one ab.
but we do have individuals who are doing now, like this picture I would put up, like plastic surgery, in order
Right.
to get these abs, right? To have that quote unquote six pack abs, right? And I think there is a parallel between beasts trying to change themselves just to fit in, and also people trying to just trying to fit in too, right? So we do have Grizz online. I'm gonna unmute him real quick and see what are his thoughts. Grizz, are you there? You teleported? You teleported out of there.
Oh boy, Nightcrawler.
He teleported out of there. Uh, we'll wait for him to come back. But let me go into the chat. Let's say, oh, okay, you just came back. So what's going on, Grizz? Come on, come on. We're on show. We're on live, right? So we just
Yeah.
wanted to get your take on Beast as a character, his psychology, and also his internal struggle to fit in with society. But before you go, I'm just gonna shout out the chat. So shout out to, and you guys could shout them out too. Shout out to Cherry. Shout out to Emilio. You guys want to shout out some people in chat? Go ahead.
In the
Okay.
chat or just in general?
No, in the chat. Just shouting out people who are in the chat.
Who we got? We got Bree Forb on the live right now. Bree Forb, what up, what up, what up? Cherry does some stuff. I don't know what stuff you do, Cherry, but chill out. What up, what up, what up? Who this? Murilo Vigo? Huh?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, what up? And Superior Hero Reviews. What's going down?
Yeah, and we got Gameology in the house with some Gameology Yo with some awesome videos. And shout out again to Superhero Reviews, awesome channel and awesomeness. So yeah, so Grizz, what's your take? And in the chat too, you guys could post your take on basically Beast. So take it away, Grizz.
All right. So my take on Beast.
I think he kind of mirrors his situation. Kind of mirrors what we're going on today, like you guys have mentioned, the social climate and everything. I specifically look at it how he was in the academy,
Mm,
where he was always in beast form in the academy, and I think he mainly stayed in that beast form to make the other students feel comfortable with who they truly are.
hmm.
Because once they go outside the academy, they're like, all right, I can't be seen as who I really am, so let me just try to hide myself. But he was like, you know what? Even though he was originally a human,
Hmm.
you know, he embraced who he became. You
Right.
know,
Right. The humanoid form to the blue,
hmm
right?
he,
Hmm.
and he embraced it, and he used that as a kind of like a mentorship to Rogue and all the other young X-Men coming up, where they're like, yo, he's a full beast, and he's mad smart, and he's a human. Like maybe I could see that in myself, and I think that gave the other mutants just the courage and peace to accept who they are and believe themselves. More
Right.
importantly, and in fact, also he was. I feel like he's the calmest one out of all of them.
Hmm.
You have Wolverine who's ready to fight if you even smell wrong. Cyclops if you look at um, Phoenix the wrong way or whatever.
Right.
So Beast. I mean, he definitely was. He embodies a lot of things, like a lot of things, and you can look at it from a lot of different aspects. But I specifically like how he carried himself in the academy.
Right. 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 I like I like the point that you brought up about he came to the process of basically accepting who he was and then taught others to accept who they were too, right? So that he was a mentor to them, right? And I think it's I'm going back to like when a lot of us were young, right? I think when I was younger, I definitely looked at myself and kind of like looked at the mirror a couple of times and wondered like, do I look good for the girls, right? Or things like that. And then seeing if I was good enough, right? In that sense. And I think like over time, you start to when you get through the process of being conscious about like where society is trying to bring you or where your place in society, that you could realize that you're good just the way you are, right? What do you think about that, the unknown?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, you know me already. So I say it's whatever you want to do. You know what I'm saying
Right.
to you, but just know there's a consequence. Um, it might be a consequence down the line for what you choose to do to yourself. Um, Everybody is fine the way they are, but there's a lot of people out there that are not okay when they look themselves in the mirror. And if they feel that changing themselves will make them feel better, then by all means do it. Just be prepared for anything that comes after, because it's not a smooth road. And that's like how Beast is. He wasn't prepared at the time. He did the injection. He was ready, and then that was it. And then when he was trying to reverse it, he couldn't reverse it. So, it's a lot of the times, depending on the things that people want to do to themselves, is a double what two-edged sword, and
Yeah.
they don't know. They might come out and luck out, or it might not work out. It might not work out for them. So I'm always down for what Beast was doing, but as you can see, it didn't work out for him. And there's a lot of
Mhm.
people out here that might have did some like everybody can look it up, breast augmentation, butt augmentations. They didn't go
Right.
the right route. They went cheap, and now they don't have a butt. Some people got to amputate their leg because it got uh, um, messed up in their blood, and things like that. So
Right.
that's what I feel.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point that there are two sides to it, right? You could do whatever you want as long as you accept the consequences or you accept that there's a long road ahead of it, right? As you
Yeah,
said that, people, if you want to do injections and it makes you feel really happy, then by all means do it, but just know that there's a road like you said, right? It's not or there are possible consequences, right? People
right,
do
correct.
have gone through it. And I think that and again, you brought up a really good parallel that Beast went through it. He did go through the consequences, but now he's kind of centered about who
Yes,
he is and where he is right now, right? Which
right.
is a really good point. Really good point. Um, Grizz or Golden Ninja, anything you guys want to add to that, or questions based on Beast that you guys want to?
So I would even take it a step further to say about social norms.
Mm,
So
speak to
I
that.
can go into a job interview and wear a suit and do what I'm supposed to do as a young male, female, whatever. But social norm is wearing a suit to interview.
Right, right,
Now,
right.
what if I said to myself, I don't want to wear a suit because that's not something I feel comfortable. I can't be my best self in a suit. I need to wear white beat-in shorts. You know, I need to wear white beat-in shorts. I could be my best self in white beat-in shorts.
Right,
Now,
right,
the same way the unknown said, there's consequences. There's consequences that you may get the job. You never know. But sometimes, and I think in most situations and scenarios,
right,
somebody sees you roll up to the job in white beat-in shorts, you're gonna get sent out the door.
right,
Now we
right,
also have to look at the parallel of it to say, what if that person cannot afford a suit and all they have is white beat-in shorts?
right, right.
So I just think that people trying to change themselves for social acceptance, it's something that it's necessary in this world. If you want to be successful, if you want to have a good life, you have to abide by certain kinds of social laws. Now the key is, how can we still be ourselves while still abiding by these social laws? Because if I remember correctly, Beast always wears a suit over his beast fur. He
Right.
doesn't go
when he goes outside and talks.
yeah, when he
Yeah.
goes to, like, when he's
The
even when he's
conferences.
doing the conference and all this stuff, he's wearing a suit or he's wearing his lab coat. Now,
Right.
is he
Right,
wearing his
right.
suit and his lab coat because he needs to, it's a social norm, or is he wearing it, or is he still not comfortable with himself? Because at the end of the day, this is me, this is who I am.
Right. Right.
But the
Right.
social norms is forcing him to having to do that.
Right. Right. No, that's a really good point. I would argue that he wears the suit and the lab coat because that's kind of the person he was, right? Because if we look at like older pictures, probably not the suit part, but if you look at the older comic books, you'll see him in a lab coat, right, being the doctor himself. But I think the point that you brought up about him being in public and still wanting to wear a suit, even though he's already blue, he has his fur, is a really good question to really ponder on. Like, is he, even though he's written in a certain way, does he still have some kind of what's the word I'm looking for, um insecurities, right, about who he is, even to current days, right, that we could look into?
Yeah.
So it's a good point.
What
But
if what if what if he accepts both sides of him?
right.
Because
So another.
we all have different faces. We all have different faces and different. Like, the person you're at work is not going to be the person you are at home. I think that's a
Correct.
term of psychology. I don't know what it's called, but
When you're like code switching, right?
Code
yeah,
switching.
kind of code switching.
Mhm.
But I think for Beast, he may be like, maybe he found a perfect balance where he's like, you know what, I'm still a man, but I'm also this.
Right, right, right.
And maybe that's why he wears the lab coats and the suits, because he could deep down inside feel like, you know what, I'm still a man, I'm still a human being. I just look like a beast.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that could be another aspect of it, but it's a lot to delve into, man.
Yeah. So you're saying like he probably he did find a balance and he's playing kind of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
I see. No, it's a really good point. And like, even when we were talking about like code switching, right? Go ahead.
Would you say the Beast is kind of similar to Bruce Banner and the Hulk? In a way? Not in terms of strength, but just like, switching back and forth. Because at the end, and to my mind, I'm not really deep into the Avengers, but I think the Hulk, Bruce Banner, and the Hulk, they got to a point where they were like, Hulk was like, yo, I need to come out. I need to do this.
Yeah.
And maybe Beast he's like, maybe he found that balance within himself. It's like, all right, I can still have the strength. Like, does he, call me ignorant, but does he have the strength of Beast in the human form?
Does who? Oh, I see what you mean. So for Beast, right? So once he went through that process of trying to cure himself, he did go through a secondary mutation, which then led him in, it kind of perpetuated things to make him turn into that blue form. Now his powers were augmented slightly, but it really just kind of like on a biological level changed his appearance, right? But his strength is, I'm not too sure about like how the measurements go in terms of his strength, but he's just as strong, if not a little bit stronger than he was in his humanoid version of himself, right?
Okay.
Because the powers are still the same. Like he could still, a high level acrobat in terms of agility, and he has augmented, or he not augmented, but he has a higher level of superhuman strength, right? But for him, I think the whole thing of him wanting to change was that his hands were really big, right? And his feet were really big. And if we had to put a picture to it, he looked kind of like a gorilla, but without the fur, right? And he wanted to somehow go through a process of normalcy to kind of like shrink the hands. And I think it might be his shoulders too, but those are one of the things that you could see on a, just by looking at pictures, that his body was kind of, just really big, right?
Yeah.
He would try to put his feet into shoes and they wouldn't fit. They would just like bust open, right? So, but, going back to your point about Bruce Banner, Bruce Banner is a very interesting character because, yes, he did get the gamma radiation that then, because the gamma radiation only perpetuated a mutation that he already had. And the Hulk was a psychological created character because his father used to abuse him. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what came from the gamma radiation was already a mutation that he already had
The subconscious.
exactly in combination with his subconscious to then be able to formulate a character that will protect him, right? Protect the little boy that used to be harassed, beat, and basically his dad used to come home drunk and beat on his mom and beat on him too. So the Hulk is a manifestation of that. So I wouldn't say that it's the same. The Hulk is really basically the protector of Bruce Banner, right? Even though he doesn't like, that's why he always says you're weak. So he steps in to be the strong version of him, right?
Okay.
Which is
Gotcha.
pretty, no, but it's interesting just to kind of talk about that. A lot of these characters that we kind of look up to as like superheroes, they actually have really deep stories, right? So yeah. Okay. So I think we're at the 27 mark. We're kind of go through final thoughts and questions, and we'll kind of wrap this episode up. So any final thoughts, team?
I think we should do something like this. Like maybe have like your subscribers pick like a mutant character and see if we could how much we could relate it to not even just things that's happening today, but just
Yeah.
to anything like just try to put it on its head to a day and age of like a day and age something like that relates to what's going on now or what's going on in the past, things like that. Because comic books and like this whole world is just a reflection of our world.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, and we definitely, I was thinking of making sure to do kind of like this type of chat where it's like all of us doing the comic book vibes like every Thursday. So we could jam about these things. So what about the rest of you, Grizz, and the Unknown? Any final thoughts before we wrap the episode up?
You want me to go? You want me to go?
Yeah, anyone.
All right. So, if anybody that's in the chat and then later on watches this,
Mm-hmm.
feels inside that physically they are not what they like,
Mm-hmm.
please do your research before you try to do anything to change yourself, because you might find out that it's better to stay where you're at than to try to change yourself to what you feel is good or what the social norm is.
Right.
That's just like a disclaimer out there, things like that. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying do your full research before into those things, because as I said, it might be good that you just stick to where you at than for you to go try to get longer fingers or something like that, you know.
Right.
So
No, it's a
all
good.
right.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Grizz.
I'm gonna go the opposite. I'm gonna say do it. Just go ahead and do it. Go ahead
Okay.
and do it. You got one life, bro. You got one life, so let's do it. You know what I'm saying?
Hey.
Go ahead and do it. Just don't
Hey,
come back
baby.
here and say I told you to do it, even though I just did tell you to do it. But live your life.
But they
Be
still got to do
yourself.
their research
Be
though.
yourself.
No,
Be yourself, man. And I'm gonna tell you this right now. Just like how the mutants and the everyone that went to the academy, you gotta go where you fit in. Go where people love you. Don't try to jam yourself into a crowd that is berating you or talking down to you in any kind of manner. You gotta find your area, find people that love you, and cultivate that kindness and love.
mm, mm. Can you speak a little bit more to that? Like, what do you mean by that? Like, let's say I'm a person who wants to change myself. Like, I want to get bigger muscles, so I want to go and get it augmented, and I'm feeling kind of like, and even
Bring
when
it.
I do get it, or before that, I'm feeling like I could
But
never
why
be
did you do
enough.
that?
So, like, what do what do you think about
All right,
that?
so in terms of like if you want to better yourself, um, it's funny you brought that up. I was thinking about this today too. Like
Mhm,
it's okay to change. Change is okay because no
mhm.
one should want to stay the same.
Right, right, right.
Whether you upgrade in your life, your relationship, whatever it is, you're going to change. It's okay to change.
So
But
move
what I'm saying is, if you want to get bigger muscles, and you go to a gym and they're mocking you and laughing you, all right, you could either choose to stay at that gym and prove them wrong,
Mhm,
or you get a partner or another gym that cultivates what you want to do, where they
mhm.
embrace you and say, all right, bro, I see what you're doing. Let me spot you. You should try this workout. That's what I mean. Like be conscious of what you really want to do and try to find people around you to support where you're going.
Right, right. Okay. All right. All right. So we're gonna wrap this episode up. So team Golden Ninja, the Unknown, and Grizz, thank you for coming out. This is Zen from Zen World. Kind of wrapping up what we talked about today is basically we went through the beast complex, and that basically means that characters or people, right, who want to go through the process of change in order to be a part of the societal norms, right? But what we kind of talked about today is that there's different layers to it, right? That people want to change in order to change themselves so they could be a better version of themselves, or people who are changing because they want to be a part of something. And the fact of the matter is you have to kind of pick what you want and do what you want, but you have to do it in a healthy way, right? Kind of what we just heard from K Grizz. So shout out to K Grizz, the Unknown, and Golden Ninja one more time. We are going to do another episode like this where we all come together and discuss kind of some real stuff, right? We get real about comic book characters and how it relates to the real world. And we'll catch you all later for the next one. Take care, everyone. Peace. Cheese. Eat some good food.